All right, man, you guys are awesome. Happy Monday night. Hope you guys are doing well. Was getting my tea so that I'm not coughing and hacking the whole time. Hope you had a good Monday. So, man, we got Thanksgiving this week. We had our town hall earlier today in the Mastermind that we do every Monday. Talk about digital assets. Weekends we have a little bit more, a broader discussion on the town hall. Mondays are a little shorter. We talk about just macroeconomics and digital assets and what's actually going on and what's affecting price and what's going on there. And just started that off today, kind of the same way that I'm going to start this off, and just say, super grateful and thankful for everybody that takes time to watch my content or participate or comment or like or share or subscribe to all the different social media forums that we use to put information out there and educate people on different topics. Never thought I would be in a position where people took time out of their day or evening to just, tune in and listen to what I had to say and, put weight behind what I had to say. Just extremely blessed and grateful for an opportunity to help other people and put stuff out there, and hopefully, people that, a couple different things. Expose people to a different asset class that they may not understand, and try to make things simpler. And then also keep faith for people that, may have had this investments for a while. We've seen some appreciation here recently, so that makes it a little easier. But I know during the bear market, there were a lot of people here dollar cost averaging, and you're always thinking, am I wrong? Is this going to work out? How long is this going to take? It seems like it's so far away, and maybe I'm crazy, which is what everybody else in your life probably tells you. If you're invested in some specific assets, it's not Bitcoin, which obviously, has, I don't know if it has staying power. We'll see what actually ends up happening with it. I mean, obviously it's been around for 15 years since the white paper was written. And so at this point, it looks pretty safe. We'll see if that actually ends up being the case. But man, just a lot of good news coming out around digital assets, a lot of promise for the adoption of the technology, regulations. We've got a new administration that is starting to put people in place and have conversations around putting people in place that are going to make a difference and drive innovation and set this, asset class up for adoption at scale across multiple verticals in the economy. And so excited about that. You got Brad Garlinghouse potentially becoming the crypto czar for Trump's administration. You got Brian Brooks also running for that position, potentially head of the SEC as well. You've got a few other nominees, Chris Giancarlo, and then there was another lady that Mr. I had mentioned, and a few others that is a proponent for crypto that may sit as the head of the SEC when they remove Gary. He's announced that he's stepping down, and his last day will be, the day that Trump gets inaugurated. So won't get a chance to say you're fired, Gary, but I know we all wish that would be the case. But, and even, this week with Thanksgiving, and then I talked about this in the Mastermind again, just super grateful for all the time that, Ripple has been in a lawsuit with the SEC. I know a lot of people have been frustrated by the amount of time that this has taken, but in the same breath, I don't think, I remember when the snapshot was taken back in 2020. I looked at the rich list back then. It actually wasn't hosted by Francis Bovine back then. It was somebody else that had put that together, and then he stepped up and put it back out after it was taken down. There were 2.7 million wallets at that time. Today, there's 5.4 million wallets on the XRP Ledger. Just speaking to that asset in particular, and not all of the rest of the assets that I think also will do really well on the other side of regulation and see price appreciation and adoption. But over the last 4 years here, when there's been regulation by enforcement, you've had an opportunity. People have had an opportunity to buy a lot of these digital assets at way lower than their all-time high before they were being used. And so, again, I know it's been frustrating, but at the end of the day, I think people are going to look back on these last few years and really be thankful and grateful that they did have the opportunity to purchase these things at a reasonable price before they did balloon up to, hundreds, if not thousands of tens of thousands of dollars in some circumstances. So anyway, just wanted to start off the evening with that. Super grateful again for you guys, hanging out, asking good questions, subscribing, liking, sharing, all those things. And then just being here early, getting to participate in what will be the largest transfer of wealth in my lifetime, maybe even my kids' lifetimes. So on that note, we'll go ahead and hop into it. As always, things are fair game. You got estate planning, mitigating taxes, digital assets in general, different networks. If you have questions around XRP, obviously I got the repping the XRP shirt tonight. And then, anything else that we deal with at the family office or with wealth management, earning yield, borrowing against things, all that's game as well. So go ahead and hop into it. Atlantic Living. They say, just to be clear, you would suggest holding at least 3,000 XRP long-term, correct? That holds regardless if price is 50 or 100. I don't know how much you have, right? I think a percentage of your portfolio would be great to hold long-term. I don't think you should liquidate everything that you got. All of my most successful trades in 20 and 21 were when I didn't sell the whole bag up front and just left it in, and it continued to grow, and I was able to continue to take money off the table. I think that's going to change on this one. I think things are going to continue to grow for the next 10 years. I don't think it's going to be these large, troughs in the chart like we've seen in the past. I think they'll move up to levels and level off and then move up again. I think it's just going to be a continual growth as we see adoption of these networks. And with that, it'd be like holding gold or the S&P 500 or some real estate. If you do have beneficiaries or grandkids, or you hope to have grandkids, it'd be great to be able to pass some wealth along to people in your family. And I don't think you're going to have to hold, to what you mentioned here, a ton of XRP long-term for it to really be meaningful for your family, as it does appreciate in value. So I can't tell you how much or how little XRP to hold for the long term. But I do think that, something close to what you said here is a really good starting point. Jesse Escobar, he says, hey, Jake, happy Monday. Could you talk about XLS66D? Max said something about reaching consensus. Any thoughts on anything related to update? And the others might be waiting for this. Thanks for all you do. I am going to also do the TikTok over here, just because I forgot about doing that, and I want to make sure we're running it up on both. So give me 2 seconds while I put that here on the light stand. And we go live over here also. Cool. So XLS 66. So 64, 65, and 66 are important for the XRP ledger. And the reason for that is 64 is pseudo accounts. So this is where you're able to lock your XRP in your wallet and then use a representation of value issued against that in some other ecosystem. That's big, because especially for things that don't want to leave institutional custody, like we do with our wealth management arm, if we're providing that service, we don't want those assets to be rehypothecated or subject to lawsuits or loss. You definitely want to have and use XLS 66 or 64, which is the pseudo accounts. 65 is liquidity pools. So liquidity pools, and I put out a video about this just recently. I think it was this today that when we released it. So the AMMs and the liquidity pools are huge for the XRP ledger. They're going to lock up XRP, and because of that, there's going to be a supply and demand shock. And every time somebody buys XRP in the pool in order to execute trades, and then also you're going to have the LP tokens that get put back into the pool and burnt. That'll cause the value of the LP tokens, which half of that's going to be XRP, to rise over time. So that's the AMMs. On the liquidity pool side, you'll be providing liquidity to different markets and different assets. I'm not exactly sure how those are going to work at scale yet. That's definitely something that I will continue to research and give you guys value on as I understand it. As far as 66 goes, that is the borrow and lend feature of the liquidity pools. So let's say you have a network of people that hold amounts of XRP, maybe our Mastermind, for example, and you want to come together as a cohort and provide liquidity to a pool that people within that network or group could borrow or lend against. People that are lending, they earn an interest rate for putting their XRP in the pool, and people that are borrowing borrow stable coins or whatever it is against their collateral in the pool. And when they pay it back, they pay it at a higher interest rate. There has to be some, maybe with the DeFi, it won't be like a 1-to-1. Maybe they'll be like, if you want to borrow, it's at a 5%, and if you want to earn, it's also at that 5%. Normally, there's some type of difference there because there's an intermediary that's earning a strip. But if it's DeFi, you really don't need that, right? So the protocol itself doesn't need to be profitable. It would just be passed to the other people on the other side of that transaction. So that's the other beauty of XLS 66D is in a borrow-lend situation. It basically connects people, peer-to-peer lending, but it'll be institutional. So it'll be large value for what goes into those pools. So anyway, we'll see what ends up, kind of transpiring on that. But definitely, that's probably one of the biggest amendments for 2025 that I'm looking forward to. When we talked to David Schwartz earlier this year at Consensus back in May, I explained to him, how we wanted to use that within the wealth management arm for Digital Ascension Group, and he really liked that. Which I always think I'm like, they're building this because people have asked them for it. And when we've talked to Ripple, we've talked to them about specific things that we think that these could be used for. And the engineers there can explain it, but they don't explain it in the same context that we do. We're talking about financial products. So anyway, yeah, super excited for that. Hopefully that's answers your question or what you were looking for there. And again, appreciate you bringing it up. I think it's a topic that a lot of people would want to hear about. Chadwick says, so thankful to be a part of DWP. The journey has been exciting. The story will be incredibly epic. Yeah, so the wealth management arm that we have for Digital Ascension Group is Digital Wealth Partners. What he mentions there, DWP. If you want to go check it out, is digitalwealthpartners.net. Book a consult, have a conversation, institutional custody. They're working on ways to be able to provide yield against your XRP held in institutional custody. We do have the capability to allow you to borrow against your XRP in institutional custody. Minimums are, you have to have at least $500,000 in value, maybe a little bit less than that, but much lower than that, it's not meaningful for the people that are providing the liquidity. And that's another benefit of some of these liquidity pools. As they come out on networks, you'll be able to put up collateral and borrow small amounts because, again, there's not an intermediary that's trying to earn fees on those transactions. So, yeah, appreciate you being a part of that. And I agree. A lot of epic things coming down the pike here. Let's see here. Got a few people over here on TikTok. Appreciate you guys hopping in the chat here and running it down with me tonight. Let me know what you want to hear about. Is it XRP? Is it mitigating taxes? Is it estate planning? Is it earning yield? Different investment strategies, private investments, game for all of it. Steve Lowe says thoughts on quant. Quant's interesting. I think Overledger will definitely be used. You've got, the Digital Pound Foundation that they're partnered with. The value proposition for quant, I think, is a little bit different than XRP and XLM. It's for paying fees to use Overledger and not necessarily to move the value within that ecosystem. And so for me, I don't anticipate quant going to millions of dollars like a lot of people do. I think that, thousands of dollars, sure, that I could see that. But I don't think some of the price speculation that people have out there is accurate. But yeah, I love the software and the network, and I do think that it will be used. We got Bobby Ashworth over here. He says, "Hello, Jake. Joined the Mastermind last week. Awesome. Carbon One, and wow, a lot of stuff to wrap my mind around in there. Question: as of now, do I not qualify? What do you not? What don't you qualify for? For custody benefits will be after liquidity event. Should I look at getting an LLC now or just sitting tight?" Good question. So, appreciate you joining the Mastermind. Excited to have you in there. Yeah, and it is kind of drinking from a fire hose for a lot of people, but it's good, right? You get to learn a lot very quickly. Depends on how much XRP you have and what you plan to do with it. Well, digital assets in general, right? So we talk a lot about XRP, but again, you might be HBAR, XLM, XDC, Quant. You might have Avalanche. You might have IOTA. There's a lot of different networks that I think will be valuable on the other side of regulations that'll see price appreciation. And if you plan to sell some of those, might be a good idea to set up an LLC. If you think that your assets will appreciate beyond the gift tax threshold here in the US, also another great reason to set up an LLC. And the LLC, I just want to make this clear. Having an LLC in and of itself is not going to save you taxes. Okay. You're going to file as an S Corp. You're going to have pass-through taxation. What it does do for you is it gives you the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset taking profit. Okay. So let's say you want to buy a vehicle. It's over 6,000 pounds under Section 179 of the tax code. You can write that off. Since Trump's back in, my anticipation is that he will move that back to 100% depreciation the first year. That's what it was when he was in office. Right now it's at 60%. So, you see a lot of soccer moms driving around in SUV Porsches or SUV Lamborghinis or SUV Bronco, the G-Wagon, right? Land Rover is the other one I'm thinking of. Something that's like $200,000, $300,000. It's over 3,000 or over 6,000 pounds. So that qualifies as heavy equipment in the eyes of the U.S. government. And if you use it for your business, you'll have to have another vehicle. But if that vehicle is used for business purposes or marketing, then you can write it off. And so let's say, it's a $200,000 vehicle, put 40 grand down, 20% down. You could write off 60% of that. So you could write off 120,000 against your income, even though you only spent 40. So that's how depreciation works. And then obviously the next year you would depreciate the rest of whatever you did in the year before. It's a great way to be able to offset your expenses for your vehicle. You can obviously write off your lease of a vehicle. If you set up an insurance policy, this is where things get cool if you're a U.S. citizen. So we do PPLI or private placement life insurance. You can do that just as an individual, but you don't get the tax benefit. So as the key employee of your LLC that makes the investment decisions, and it would not run without you, the LLC can take out a policy on you and set up the trust that you set up as the beneficiary and fund that policy with your assets in kind. They have to be structured in their specific way, and there's a cadence in which it has to be funded. We deal with all that. But let's say, you wanted to take out a $20 million policy on yourself. You could fund the first $10 million within the first 90 to 120 days. And that's the cash value of the policy that you can then borrow against, and you would get to write off that $10 million. So if you cashed out another portion of your bag, let's say you cashed out $5 million, funding that policy would offset any taxes that you might incur on the other side. And I'm hopeful, just like everybody else is, that Trump makes it where US based digital assets qualify for no capital gains. That'd be great. But you're still going to sell the asset, right? So if you sold the asset, you're going to miss the upside if it continues to appreciate. Imagine how many people would have loved to loan against their Bitcoin at $100 and let it continue to stack on zeros, right? It's almost 100,000 now. So there's 4 more zeros behind that $100. I think the same thing's going to happen with a few of these other digital assets. XRP in particular is my bias. Again, take everything I have with a grain of salt. Do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. It's only for entertainment and educational purposes only. But I do think that there, maybe it's not this one. Maybe it's something else that you hold that's going to be crazy profitable. And if you do, if you're able to borrow against it at a very reasonable interest rate on a longer term note, and refinance that every time it appreciates, and you're able to continue to service the debt because you're investing that capital into real estate that cash flows that you can use cost seg on to offset the the income taxes on. Tons of strategies, right? So I know I went down a rabbit hole here, but I think this is valuable for people. But kind of back to your initial question here, should you go ahead and get an LLC set up now or later? My general thought on this is if you're single, if you got more than like 50 grand invested in digital assets, makes sense to go ahead and set up an LLC. If you are married and you have more than $80,000 invested between the two of you, also probably makes a lot of sense to go ahead and set up an LLC. And you're going to do a single member LLC, whether you are single or married. You don't want the tax implications that come with a partnership for contributing capital. So just do a single member LLC. We do that for people. If you want that service, you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, and there is a drop down for services, and you just click LLC. It's $3,000 on there, but and I normally don't put this out here, but if you want to use the code 50, like 50, off, OFF, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, LLC, it'll get you 50% off the LLC there on the website. And that is also the precursor qualifier for us to be able to work with you on the wealth management side at Digital Wealth Partners. So up to you. Again, just kind of best practice and some considerations I wanted to point out. But again, at the end of the day, is your choice. Hazy Days says, love the hair. Thank you. I am super excited with how the hair transplant worked out. We got that done back in, has it been June? It's been 5 months ago already. This year's flown by. They say, thank you so much for spending so much of your valuable time researching XRP. I really don't spend a ton of time anymore. Obviously, the amendments as they come out, I try to stay up to date on those because we want to use that and provide value for our clients. But I spent, probably a year and a half trying to figure out how I was wrong about XRP, because I was like, for you to pick the one out of 40,000 digital assets that's going to be what's the back end of the financial system, like, get out of here, right? Like, what are the odds on that? So I spent every single day for a year and a half trying to figure out how I was wrong, and I continually became more and more convicted because I asked all the questions, same questions everybody else has, like, well, banks will just use something that they create, or they can create more of them, or somebody can control it. It's centralized. Like, I went through all those things just like everybody else talks about, and actually figured out that it's the opposite. And because of that, I'm able to, combat those things when people say them to me, because I have done the research. But I appreciate the kind words, and thank you. Over here on TikTok, we have a lot of people running it up in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Tommy says, are you talking about the crypto DAG? No. So Digital Ascension Group is the family office. It's the holding company that owns the family office that I manage. I am the managing director of Digital Ascension Group and Digital Family Office. And yeah, we provide a full scope of wealth management services for anybody that makes a lot of money in crypto. So that could be, again, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, whatever you made your money in. We do institutional custody, provide all of the, borrow, lend, earn stuff around that, the estate planning, taxes, accounting, concierge service, private jets, brokers, whatever you need, private security. We got it all. Happy to run any of that down. But I do like DAG. I think that protocol will be used for something. Kyle said, I ran down some of these benefits for starting an LLC. Leo asked if you can buy a shirt. I don't sell these. I actually got this from XRP Cafe. So if you guys want to go check them out, awesome people. We met them at Rare Evo. They had a booth there. Good guys. I didn't get to see Vet in person, but a lot of his team was there. So let's see here. Continue to run it down in the chat. XRP Junkie. He says, there's been so much speculation about whether USDT is operating in a regulatory compliant manner. It's not. It turns out, if it turns out they're compliant, will that impact your domino theory? Even if they are compliant, here's the deal. They hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and that's going to be the problem. So when they institute stablecoin regulation here in the US, that's not allowed. You cannot use digital assets to back a US dollar denominated stablecoin in the bill that's currently sitting on the floor of the House and Senate. So I think that they're going to ram that through. On the other side of that, USDT won't be able to dump all the Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet because they're currently in a lawsuit with Celsius. So there's like $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin locked up that they won't be able to sell off to swap for treasuries. And with that, it's going to be problems. I can tell you that I'm extremely sure that they have, they may have the backing in a lot of things. Like, so they are the 5th or 6th largest holder of U.S. treasuries. They've been soaking up debt as it's come onto the market from Japan and other countries as they've been dumping our treasuries. I think the Fed has been using them as a proxy or a patsy to do that because they haven't been buying it. They've been allowing Tether to do it. But they have been allowing sanctioned countries to transact in what is effectively the US dollar through their stablecoin. And that has been audited and subpoenaed by the US government. Brad Garlinghouse wouldn't come out and talk about it if he wasn't extremely sure that that's what the situation is. So what they're doing has been circumventing sanctions, and I think that's going to be problematic for them. Matt says, invert my camera. I'll have to figure out how to do that here on TikTok. I'm new to TikTok, man. I appreciate you pointing that out. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that over here. What do we got? Flip it back over here to this side. Man, flip camera. How's that? Is that better? Did I do it? People here on YouTube are like, what are you doing? Michael Titus, he says, hello, Jake. If I get an LLC in Wyoming, I have to file it with a state as a foreign entity. Does that negate being anonymous? Can I avoid this? If you're in California, they're going to know. It's not going to be public record. It would just be filed with the state there that you are the BOI or the beneficiary of intent. And you're going to have to file that with FinCEN anyway. So you can get a nominee service is the other way that you can go about that. And they can be listed on that documentation. It's a little more expensive. You can get you a virtual office there as well. There's a couple different things that you can do to list things on that, filing that make it a little bit better for you. But again, it's not going to be public record if it's done the correct way. I would work with an attorney, and we can provide you one if that's something you're interested in. Let's see here. Super excited. Appreciate you guys hopping in the chat here tonight. Thanks, XRP Queen. Thank you for the kind words. Daniel, you know what? Here, I'll take this one. Daniel Sensale says XRP to 10K. There are a lot of people that have said that over the years. Is it possible? Absolutely. Likely in the short term? Probably not. Okay. And the reason for that is you're going to need actual, like, almost full scale adoption of the XRP ledger. And the main application that I think could drive price to that amount would be derivatives. So Codius is a product that Ripple's been working on since its inception. It's a smart contract platform for dApps. Evernote is kind of similar to that, but it's for simple smart contracts. Hooks doesn't have the capability to do more complex things, like things that are EVM based, that are coded in Python or Solidity. I'm not sure what Codius is coded in. I want to say it's Java, but I could be wrong about that. If you go check out their website, it's codius.io. They say expect dragons. I don't know if that means this year it's the year of the dragon. But I think that's the application in which you could see XRP go to 5 digits, is if it were settling quadrillions of dollars. Those would be the volumes that would be required in order to move price to that level. Market cap would become astronomical at that point. People would have a really hard time reconciling that in their mind, that something could be, and again, I think the paradigm around how people value these assets is going to have to change. Most people look at them like a company, and a market cap makes sense for stocks. Market cap doesn't make sense a whole lot for digital assets. And let me give you the example as to why. So let's say I mint, 1 billion Jake coin. Okay. It's my coin. I launch it on Solana. It's a meme coin. My mom pays $1 on an exchange to buy it. Effectively, what's my market cap of Jake coin? Anybody? I can see the stuff over here on TikTok in real time. Anyway, the market cap ends up being $1 billion. Even though I only had one transaction for $1, my market cap, I had 1 billion tokens. It sold for $1, is now effectively $1 billion. It's not quite that simple, but at its core, it really is. So when people use market cap as a valuation tool in crypto, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. When you're doing it on a publicly traded stock, it definitely does. There's liquidity there, and there's people that are buying at that level. It can't be manipulated like it can be in crypto. So I think liquidity, there'll be some measure of liquidity in these assets. I don't know what that index or barometer is going to look like. But I think as things become more liquid, that is how people are going to value these networks in the future. And so hopefully that makes more sense on the $10,000 per XRP. This one's interesting. David says, can you share your XRP exit plan or a partial exit plan? Thank you. I have an amount in my mind that I would like to sell when XRP's around $100, and that's to cover, some liabilities that I have, fund companies that we have, and then also purchase a home for my wife and I. Right? Put that off for a long time, and she hasn't let me forget about it, like a good wife wouldn't. And so, got to make sure that, happy wife, happy life. For anybody that's married, how it is. So, anyway, those are just some of my goals, right? I would like to purchase an apartment complex and do some other things, but I think I'm going to do that with the yield or borrow against it. I may just borrow that amount against it when price appreciates, depends on what it goes to. And we do have that capability now inside institutional custody. So probably end up going that route instead of just liquidating a portion of my bag, because I do think this is going to continue to appreciate over time, and I do think it's going to be one of the most profitable assets to ever use in the infinite banking concept. So hopefully that gives you something, David. I know, you probably want to be like, at $10, I'm gonna sell it this much, and 25, I'm gonna sell this much. $100 is really where I'm gonna start taking profit if I do, and it's just gonna be a flat amount. So that'd be like, what, 5,000 tokens that I'd sell at $100 a piece, to get the 5 million. Is that right? No, because that'd only be 500,000. So it'd need to be 50,000 tokens at $100 would get you the 5 mil. Wild Bill. Hey, Jake, what are your thoughts on 3 high-level Ripple executives leaving, bullish or bearish? Bullish on acquisition of Ripple. I think that the escrow, I've just had a hard time with Ripple managing the escrow long-term after the adoption of the XRP at scale globally. And if they were acquired by a BlackRock or a larger company, I think that that's much more likely. So with those executives leaving, most of the time that happens previous to an acquisition. That's my anticipation. So bullish for acquisition of Ripple. Let's see. We've got 81 says XRP going back to 50 cents. I'm sorry, my friend, but it's not. If you didn't buy when it was, then I'm sorry you missed out. Bradley B. So how soon will you be buying this home? My way of asking when $100. Hopefully this year. I'd like to buy something this year, Bradley. Let's see here. Do you think XRP is going to get to $100? I do think XRP would get to $100. It's contingent on specific events playing out. Again, I made a video about this way back in March of this year about the domino theory. Japan's reverse carry trade has to unwind. That causes problems with Tether, either through stablecoin regulations or sanctions, or U.S. Treasuries becoming unstable. Then they've got to roll out stablecoin regulation, which gives full clarity to XRP here in the U.S. as a bridge asset. Also has huge implications for Bitcoin. Unrealized losses in the stock market now that they have options and leveraged options on Bitcoin. If there wasn't systemic risk before, there for sure is now. And so, just be aware of that. And I do think that there is a potential scenario where they blame the stock market collapsing on Bitcoin instead of the reverse carry trade. And in that time, they'll need instant settlement. You got Project Ion that was developed with the DTCC and R3. That was finalized in 2022 and is running in tandem with the current stock market. There needs to be enough liquidity in whatever digital asset it could use to settle, XRP or XDC. I think XRP would be the main one for that. You have all these exchange traded products that are now starting to be listed or applied for with the SEC. They haven't approved any of the S1s. You got Wisdom Trees, ETP, and Fund that they've launched now. You got 21 Shares, Canary Capital, Bitwise, just on and on and on. I think when you see BlackRock throw their weight behind XRP and the ETF, that's when it's go time. And yeah, I think that they could push it to $100 pretty quickly. Rafa Team says you're killing me with the shirt and the cup. Jealous. Working with R3 has been really cool. And again, XRP Cafe, if you guys want to go check it out, I think they have a merch store somewhere. You can get a Beyond Broke Mastermind mug. If you attend one of our events, we would give these out at all our events. I know you're probably talking about the other, but I have given a couple of these away in the Mastermind. The R3 mugs we have given away to a few members there, and we'll continue to do stuff like that over time. Man, so many good questions. I am not going to get to all these tonight. We are already 40 minutes in, and I'm going to hang out for about an hour and a half, so we're about halfway through. BDev says market cap always determines the price based on the math. Can you elaborate on why market cap doesn't add up? It adds up. I'm just saying people are going to have a really hard time understanding something getting into the quadrillions on a market cap. to value a network that's moving value across the globe is unlike any company that's ever existed. And like I said, I think there'll be a different measure that is adopted for digital assets. That's a barometer or scale that's something separate than market cap. Let's see here. Roland Team says, so thankful for Jake. Thank you, brother. Thankful for you being here. Bought XRP, but you are changing my life because I will never just blow it. Thank you for that. It's stuff like that, man. If I can just help people start to think about these things before price appreciation happens and get a plan in place and start to think about how to structure their estate and make sure that they set themselves up for success on the other side of it, whether, there's still going to be a lot of people that don't. There's still going to be a lot of lottery winners that, just buy a bunch of liabilities. Most lottery winners go completely broke or bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. They sell, they get the lottery. They don't realize the taxes they're going to have to pay on that. If they move it into their estate, anything over, 27.22 million is going to be, taxed at 40%. They don't find the advisors. They don't find the intelligent people to put around them. And it's a paradigm shift for you, right? And here's the other piece of this. You should only have to get wealthy one time. And then your job is to protect it and grow it at a moderate rate. Okay. The family offices that I deal with, the majority of them are looking for somewhere between an 8 and 15% return. And they're always looking for a return of their capital before a return on their capital. So what does that mean? That means that they're looking to put their money to work in places that keeps up with inflation. That's their number one mandate. So if I make an investment, my money is worth the same next year as it is this year in purchasing power, right? We've seen groceries 3x since COVID. We've seen gas is actually about the same, which is interesting. Real estate 3x since COVID. So effectively, if you haven't 3x your net worth since 2020, you've taken a step backwards because the purchasing power of your money has gone down so much during that period of time. So anyway, educating yourself on this stuff, making sure that you do understand how economics works. And I think this paradigm is going to shift even again on the other side of this when they institute gold-backed currencies and they do shore up the financial system to bring back in trust for people. Judy Sheldon has, talked about gold-backed bonds, a 50-year gold-backed bond that they're going to launch on July 4th in 2026, which will be 50 years before the 300th anniversary of our nation under Trump's guidance, and from the Treasury, not from the Federal Reserve. I think there's going to be a big shift in how money works and the best way to actually use money over the past really 50 years since 1971. If you were a debtor, you got really rich. You made a lot of money if you were able to borrow large amounts of money and put it to work in assets. That paradigm is going to shift. People that are savers, I think, could do a lot better on the other side of whatever transition takes place because the money is actually going to hold its value. It's going to be a unit of account. Right now we use currency. It's not money. If you haven't watched Mike Maloney's Secrets of Money series on YouTube, I would highly encourage you to go do that. It's like 9 episodes, but it's really worth it. Definitely open your eyes to, how money actually works and the debt-based system that we're in and how people have used that to their advantage. And people will have to figure out on the other side of this how that system works and how to use it to their advantage. People that are economists, I think, will probably be the first to figure that out. But you could be in line for that as well. And again, just thank you for the kind words here. And hopefully, some of the other stuff that I talk about is valuable. I just want people to be aware that they can set themselves up for success. And on the other side of this, to your point, I don't want them to blow it. Caleb and Brown over here on TikTok. I think they're great. Fees are a bit high. If you do want a broker, Aaron's my broker there at Caleb and Brown. I'm actually going to meet with him in Dallas here, I think next week. He's going to be around after Thanksgiving, which will be cool. Kraken, highly recommend Kraken. If you want the cheapest way to trade crypto, it's inside institutional custody with Digital Wealth Partners. It's 20 basis points with no spread. Like you're not, and it doesn't matter the amount that you're trading there either when you're working with those wealth advisors over there at Digital Wealth Partners. So, shameless plug. I tried to create something that I would want as a client, and that's how it's been built. So, Double O 589 says, when filling out capital contributions page for an LLC operating agreement, do I add every XRP address separately from all my different wallets? And same for all the cryptos I'm gifting to the LLC. If you're going to continue to hold those balances in those wallets, yes. If you want to consolidate those to one wallet or a couple wallets, you can actually benefit by doing that. And that's because you're consolidating those, and you can point to that capital contributions page in your 1099 DA that you file this year. With your taxes, you get a grace period the last quarter of this year to reestablish cost basis for your wallets with the IRS. And when you're moving it into an LLC, you can point to those transactions as that event when you reestablish the cost basis. So that's the opportunity that I used and would use personally, would be to consolidate my holdings of whatever that asset was. Again, and this is coming from a guy that had 12 XRP wallets before I got it into where I have it now. So not saying it's good or bad. You would want to list them all, and you can point to that for your cost basis in each one of those. But again, consolidating is probably going to make tax filings and a lot of other things a lot simpler versus having a ton of different addresses. Angus says, if we want to take advantage of custody with DAG, what needs to happen prior to the end of the month? We have an LLC. Is it just paperwork, money, or also need to transfer assets before end of month? Yeah, as long as you get the process started. So Digital Wealth Partners is going to move the minimum client size that they work with from 100,000 up to 500,000 on December 1st. If you are over 100,000 and you have an LLC or a trust set up, I would encourage you to, go ahead and take a look at that. Not saying you have to, move it over now, but at least ask questions about it, because that opportunity and window is going to close. I do think that we're right around the corner from more price appreciation, and a lot of people are going to be on the other side of that 500,000 very quickly. But if you do feel like you might not be for whatever reason, I would encourage you to go check it out. And yeah, to your point here, it's just paperwork and paying the onboarding fee of $1,000, and you're good to go. The assets don't have to be transferred by the end of the month. Crypto Clay says, thanks, Jake. First live with you. Hey, awesome. I've been following for years. Sweet pickup on getting my boy Mickle on your team. I know it, man. Wouldn't trade Mickle for the world. Super blessed and grateful to have him working with us. Digital Wealth Partners would not be what it is without Mickle. That's for sure. So, very thankful for him this Thanksgiving. Let's see here. We've got this one. Why trade a currency that will be appreciating to a depreciating asset like the dollar? You wouldn't. Unless they do shore up the dollar and they peg it to gold like they did pre-1971. And then, it's a unit of account, and you can forecast, what that's going to look like. And on the other side of a lot of the regulation and, Doge government efficiency, I think that you're going to see the implementation of a lot of these technologies similar to the Industrial Revolution. I think the cost of production on a lot of items is going to come down, and thus, actually pass those savings on to consumers. I think that we're going to move into a period of prosperity similar to what we had after World War II. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Fourth Turning. Would encourage you to read that book if you haven't. but it talks about socioeconomic cycles and how those coincide with the change in currency. And so we're due for a big shift for socioeconomic power, and then also the currency as well. And in most circumstances, when that shift occurs, there's a war that takes place. You look at the Civil War, you look at World War II. Those are two times in history when that happened. I don't think we're going to get a war this time. I think there's going to be some separate event that pulls people back together. I know that people are still very divided, even after the election here, polarized over different topics. But I'm really hopeful that there is some type of catalyst that galvanizes society again, and we're able to move toward a new objective together without all the bickering. And I think that we'll move into a period, like I said, of prosperity, at least for one generation. At least that tends to be what the cycle is. Wild Bill, he says, how long until you expect major announcements to be made regarding institutional adoption of XRP? Months, 2025. I'm going to go ahead and say this year in 2024, Wild Bill. You can quote me. If I'm wrong, I'll say I was wrong, but that's my prediction. Kevin says, I should apply for the Crypto Czar and maybe SEC chair. Absolutely not, Kevin. Brad has me beat for sure on the Crypto Czar, and so does Brian Brooks and Giancarlo and everybody there. I'm definitely not as qualified or as decorated as any one of those individuals. And I feel as though I would much prefer them to be in that position versus myself. So I'll vote for them and bow out on this one. Maybe a long time from now. Maybe like, another 10 years. Sure. But now I feel like they're more qualified. If XRP got to $100, why would you sell? Well, I have personal financial goals and things that I want to take care of, and I've been able to dollar cost average for 4.5 years into the asset, and have way more than I thought I would ever have. Like I'm sure a lot of people, that are watching here. And so with that, I've got specific goals and things that I would like to do in my life for my family. And again, if I'm able to borrow, then I'll borrow. But I think selling you're never going to go broke taking profits. Let me say that. There were a ton of people in 20 and 21 that didn't sell assets when I sold, and then they rode it all the way back down again. Okay. I don't think that's going to happen this time. And I do think this is a utility bull run, and I do think dynamics and constraints are different. But that's not to say that you shouldn't have a plan for you and your family and execute on it. Let's see here. Man, I'm going to go ahead and pull it on down. Oh, here's a super chat. I know that's what I was looking for. Johnny Lakers. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the super chat. He says he joined the Mastermind today. Awesome. Before it goes to 100K or $1,000 a month. Yeah, that's where it's headed. Glad I finally got off my butt and joined. Looking forward to talks with all the members in the group. Appreciate you. Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you being in the group. Excited to have you with us. Do a lot of this there, plus more. Talk about things that I don't discuss here publicly. And then we also run private deals there in the Mastermind. In the past, we've been able to get people access to Ripple on multiple deals that are closed at this point. Not to say that we won't do more of those in the future, potentially. 506B, Reg D, we're able to involve up to 35 non-accredited investors that meet the qualification of sophisticated by participating in our group. We have a pre-existing business relationship with those individuals, and we provide financial education and business resources that allow them to meet that criteria. And so, hence, Carbon One is where you get the business resources and can participate in the private deals that we run in the community. And that's, we're the only group in the XRP ecosystem that I'm aware of that's ever run actual investment deals inside the group. And not just me, other people in the community have brought deals to the group that have been funded, and I think will end up being really lucrative for people. And that's really what we wanted to build. prior to price appreciation was an ecosystem of people that were looking for deals, looking for different opportunities in different verticals that had specific expertise in oil, in real estate, in other energy, 3D printing, fintech companies, regtech, medtech, biochemical engineers. We've got almost 900 people in the mastermind, which blows my mind. Mind. And everybody in there has their own background and expertise from their career, whether that's insurance or, again, real estate. We have people across the board, podiatrists, people that are chiropractors, people that are dentists, people that come from every different thing that you could think of. And what's really cool is you can ask a question in the group about almost anything, and there's somebody that'll step forward that's an expert in there about that topic and be able to give you a really good answer. And that's the power of a mastermind, right? So let's see here. What do I know about PiCoin? I know nothing about PiCoin. Is there a Caleb and Brown alternative that's cheaper? Kraken. Kraken's a really good choice. They do, very low fees the more you transact on their platform. How will XRP software benefit the masses on a systemic global scale? The way I explain crypto in general to people is most everybody uses a payment app, right? So you have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Wise, whatever it is that you use. And when you take money, somebody sends you money. When you want to move it to your bank account, you get two options. You have instant and it costs you a fee, or it takes 2 or 3 days and it's free, right? Well, that's because settlement actually takes 2 or 3 days in banking. And so the killer app for crypto is that you could get the benefit of both. You could get free instantly, right? And I think, especially for international remittance, back-end settlement of the stock market, another thing that people have started to understand because of Wall Street bets was with AMC and GameStop, they halted trading because of the volume on that, because the clearinghouses had forked out so much money or fronted so much money to the brokers, and they needed that to settle. And then they also sold over 139% of the stock because there's no accounting mechanism that goes across all the brokers. So if you had everything on a ledger, on a blockchain, there'd be no way that you could do that. And you would have real-time settlement. So there'd be no problems for that either. So that's why I think, we do get tokenization of the stock market. I don't know that it's imminent, but it could definitely be done by the end of the year also if the circumstance, presented itself. Thank you, Kevin, for all the memberships as usual, brother. Crazy. Warriors of Ramoth, interesting name here on YouTube. He says XRP more usable than Bitcoin. Prove me wrong. I'm not going to prove you wrong. I would agree with that. Let's see here. Kevin says, Merry Thanksgiving. Appreciate you, Mr. Hoover. Hope you're doing well. Crypto Navigator says, shout out to Jake. I love what you're doing, my friend. I'm going to look forward to meeting with you on the family office when I'll be set up with a host of others. Yeah, we actually, I went into Dallas today and met with another family office here and was looking for office space. So in anticipation of some price appreciation, that's another thing that's on my list of things that I would like to do is get some office space here in Dallas for people, wonderful people like yourself to come. We do have a spot, like I have a co-working spot that we meet people with, but I'd like to get Mikkel and a lot of our team here and in an office. And so just to be able to provide, I don't know, I want that warm and fuzzy when I go meet a financial advisor or a team. I want to be able to shake their hand, look them in the eye, talk to them, know that we're good. And I think most people that are, 35 or older want the same. And so we want to be able to provide that. Not that we don't now. Again, I have people fly in and meet with me now, but we're pretty decentralized with our team, and I'd like to get people here in an office. And I think you get more done that way too. let's see here. Thoughts on XDC. I wear an XDC shirt also. First time viewer and very much enjoy the educational content. I'm more of a long-term investor when it comes to ISO 20022 coins. I've talked about this before. There are no ISO 2022 coins. I won't get into semantics. I know what you mean. So I like XDC. I think for trade finance, it's great. We sponsored XDC in Austin. I got to meet Simon, president of Uphold, last year in August. Trade on XDC, talk to him frequently. Know a lot of people that run validators on that network. We actually have a project in the Mastermind where we'll be getting people access. Even if you don't have 10 million XDC, in Q1, you'll have the ability to earn yield on your XDC from being in the Mastermind. So that'll be exciting for people. And bullish on the token. I think that the network will definitely see adoption for trade finance. It's something that we might be looking to deploy capital into from our clients. There's lots of situations where people need liquidity as they're moving whatever they're trading or purchasing or manufacturing overseas, and they have receivables that they were willing to, take less payment on, and then have whoever it is receive the full payment. You could flip your capital. When I talked to Andre Casterman at TradeFi last year at that event, which was super informative, by the way, his presentation was by far the most informative at the event. A little boring if you're not like super jazzed up about TradFi. But anyway, yeah, I think it could go somewhere between $1 and $3. Most people ask me for price prediction. I think that that's reasonable. I made a bunch of money on XDC. I bought it for 0.03 of a penny back in the day. I no longer own it, but I did make a good amount of money on it. So bullish on it overall. Let's see here. Wait, how is Kraken just like Caleb and Brown? I thought Kraken is like Uphold. Uphold and Caleb and Brown are both brokers. Kraken is actually an exchange. So Caleb and Brown and Uphold would be very similar. They broker and have a bunch of liquidity providers, whereas Kraken is an exchange by itself. It does not source liquidity from anybody else, and that's why their fees are cheaper. So Sufall 96 has asked if Caleb and Brown is legit. Yes, they are. So Australia is actually the most stringent financial jurisdiction on the planet, even more so than New York. Okay, so for them to be able to operate in the way that they do in Australia, they are the real deal. Never had a problem. They are like highest tier security and compliance that you could possibly have for a digital asset firm. Very professional, white glove. They provide a very good service and they charge for it. If you want something done, you can call your broker. It's nice to have somebody that you can call. Again, we provide that at Digital Wealth Partners. But yeah, for an exchange and for a fund and for where they are in the world, I understand why they charge the premium that they do, and they are legit. How much do you know about tax here in Australia when it comes to crypto? Enough to be dangerous would be my answer on that. We work with John Basilos over there in Australia. He's an estate planner there. He can get you set up with a family trust and move your assets in there before price appreciation. Anything under the monarchy, I would suggest that you get things structured previous to price appreciation. They're going to get their piece of flesh, whether it's now or later, and before your assets appreciate, tends to be, it'll cost you less. So up to you on that, but we've had a lot of clients go ahead and take that route and get their assets either offshore from Australia over into BVI or Singapore or the UAE in Dubai. But if you are going to, continue to live there in Australia because you have family, a family trust makes a lot of sense. Blah, blah, blah. I love people over here on TikTok. Let's see here. Quincy says XRP to $5. I think it's going to go a little bit higher than that when it goes. Where are we at on time? We'll hang out for another 15 minutes here or so. Do you deal with the UK at all? We do. If you're in the UK, it's 4 a.m. there. So God bless you for being up this early. We do. We have a couple different firms that we work with over there in the UK to be able to set you up in Portugal, Nevis, the Caymans. Jordan is another popular play over there. Again, Dubai. There's another gentleman I know that lives in the UK or used to live in the UK that moved to Dubai. Nevis tends to be really good for LLCs. Jordan, Portugal, you can purchase some real estate there. Monaco is another one. If you plan to stay, in the EU or somewhere in that area. If you move out of the UK, they're very stringent on how much time you can spend there each year until you don't get the double tax treaty or the exemption from their taxes. Eleanor Terrett, is somebody that we talk to pretty regular here in the U.S. that's a UK citizen that spends, the exact amount of time that she's allowed to there. But yeah, we definitely deal with the UK and we're familiar with the tax laws there. Again, under the monarchy, you're limited to $400,000 that you can gift, or 400,000 pounds that you can gift over a 7-year period. It's pretty limited. So again, moving your assets into an LTD is not going to provide you a limited company over there is not going to provide you a lot of protection. I would get it into a separate jurisdiction other than the UK if you can, and if you're willing to move out of the UK, that would also be, what we see most people do. X says, love the content. Can you talk about post liquidation sell orders fill? If we buy more crypto, exchange for XRP, where do we allocate these to the XRP LLC aside from what we initially put in? Great question. Okay, so you have your initial contribution that you put in. You have a wallet that you've listed that's now owned by the LLC. If you use an exchange account that's in the LLC's name or your personal name to purchase more assets and you send it to that wallet, that counts as a written consent or a written action, which you would normally denote in a notebook somewhere. But because it's on a public blockchain and it's readable and you can see all those transactions in your wallet, you don't have to do all that. But as long as the assets end up in that wallet that's owned by the LLC, they're effectively in the LLC. Dogecoin. I don't know, man. I think Doge to $1. We'll see. Elon's bullish on Doge, So, Romance Kid says, what's your time frame on greater than $5? It's contingent on global macroeconomic events planning out. Again, the reverse carry trade unwinding, Tether being sanctioned, stablecoin regulations. But I do think all that happens this year. So, let's see here. AJB24 says, hey, Jake, what are your thoughts on Marshall Hayner's Metal blockchain partnership with FedNow? XPR. Oh, boy. I'll just say this. So early on in 23, when that kind of burst onto the scene, I had a project where somebody was looking to tokenize mineral rights on any chain, and they were willing to trade billions of dollars worth of mineral rights to a project in order to get it tokenized. We reached out to the Metal blockchain and their consortium, and we spoke with their business development lead in the UK. And when I was able to explain what his blockchain was supposed to do better than him, gave me cause for concern. When we asked them, if they would be interested in the proposition, they said, we really only have like $1 million worth of liquidity that we could even tap to try to do that. And I don't think the founders are going to do it. So after that experience, dealing with that individual, And again, it's a limited experience. I know there's a lot of people that are, big on metal, and I think it's going to be game changing. And there's probably some progress since we talked to that gentleman more than a year and a half ago. Okay, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm not bullish on it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to do anything. But I've been wrong before. I thought 75K was a top for Bitcoin. So I'm just some guy on the internet. Do your own research. It sounds like you have some conviction here since you brought it up. But that's my opinion on it. But I'm just one guy, right? So just my 2 cents. X says, content A1, thank you for the kind words. For crypto holdings under an LLC, after selling orders fill, convert to USDC or coins like XRP XLM, should these be reallocated back to the LLC? Again, as long as you're using wallets that are associated with the LLC or exchange accounts associated with the LLC, and if you do convert to fiat, bank accounts associated with the LLC, you don't have to continue to write all those things down because there's going to be a record because it is a public blockchain for those transactions, and you're using exchange in the name of the LLC. So up to you if you want to trade. Again, it's not my game, but it sounds like you're going to take some profit and hope it falls back down and buy back in. Some people might do that. Some people might regret that. We'll see. This lady over here is asking a question. She says, isn't Caleb more guaranteed than Kraken? How are they the same? Uphold and Kraken. Again, Uphold and Caleb and Brown are both brokers. They source liquidity from a bunch of different wallets, exchanges, companies, other things, OTC desks, aside from just their internal reservoir of tokens. Kraken just has their own stuff. So they are separate. There is no assurances in any exchange or brokerage for digital assets. None of them are insured. The only people that are insured are qualified custodians like Anchorage, which is who we work with. There are no guarantees, unfortunately. Man. All right, we're just going to pull it all the way down to the bottom here and get the super chats, and then we'll jump down to the end of the questions and make sure we try to wrap it up. But Honest Aim, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, Jake, we just want to say thank you for all that you do for us. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Blessings. Thank you. Hope you and your wife are well, and look forward to seeing you guys at the next event. That is something else that I didn't mention before. If you are part of the Mastermind, we do have IRL, in real life, events. Again, we've done more of those than any other community in XRP community. I wouldn't say more than like Bored Ape, because those guys definitely do that. They got apparel, they got a lot of stuff going on, but we try to emulate some of the best, right? Do quarterly get-togethers for everybody in the group, and anybody that is involved there can participate in the events. We do some private events for Carbon 2. We did Lake Tahoe earlier this year, which was pretty cool. And we'll continue to do more, destination events for stuff on the other side of price appreciation, which, again, I don't think is too far in the future. Hazy Days has pointed something out here. So they say, all Uphold customers need to remember that they have a maximum withdrawal of funds when you sell of 25 per day. They don't. Depends on who you know. So if you have an institutional account or a business account with them, reach out. We do have connections there if you do want to work with them on their institutional side. They don't advertise it. They do have an OTC desk. It is far cheaper to transact on their OTC desk than it is on the normal exchange. It is attached to your normal exchange wallet, so you do have to have an account there. But we do have contacts there that can get you access to far cheaper costs on Uphold and much larger limits for withdrawals, if that's something you're interested in. Connor Davis, with XRP waiting on full institutional approval from pending non-security use status, It's not pending. It is not a security. Could the inflow of institutional investment push the price beyond something like $20 due to daily volume alone? Yes. Yeah. When institutions step in and start using it, yeah, you're going to see a move in price that other people, like most people, are going to their jaw is just going to gap open while they're staring at the screen. When you see BlackRock file their ETF, it's game time. Let's see here. This was interesting. I think this gentleman asked, do I think the Fed will ever create a crypto-backed... Oh, I lost it. By gold in the Federal Reserve. I don't think the Federal Reserve will ever do that. The whole Ponzi scheme that the Federal Reserve is built on is fiat and issuing debt. Our Treasury, yeah, absolutely. I think that our Treasury here in the U.S. Will likely issue, stable. What they're going to do is back our treasuries with gold, and then they'll make people that issue stable coins hold those treasuries. So your stable coin won't be redeemable for gold, but if you purchase the treasury, it will be. They like derivatives. Thoughts on Stronghold? I think it's very interesting. I think that they'll probably get acquired by Stripe or somebody like that. They're a good payment processor. I don't think they're ever going to get anywhere close to 1 or 2 or 3% of the total payments processing that happens for merchants. They're very late to that game. They're built on the right network. I think that Stellar brings a lot of value to that token and ecosystem. Obviously, we've seen some price appreciation. People that are holding the token are doing well. But yeah, and maybe they do get bought by Stripe and then they use it in their ecosystem and the price does go crazy. But that's really the only way that I see them being able to get the amount of adoption needed to push the token to the prices that a lot of people are hoping for. Jason says, which membership is going up to 1,000? Yeah, Carbon One. So when XRP goes above $10, everything, all the cost for the tiers in the Mastermind are going to 10x. We're going to wait. We're going to lock it down for 30 days. Everybody that's in is in. We're going to move in a much higher level of scrutiny for vetting people. We already had conversations with the team that we're going to use to do that. And on the other side of that, anybody that does want into the Mastermind post price appreciation will have to pay the higher fees. We're talking about some, family and friends discounts, still sorting through what that's going to look like. But yeah, it'll be $1,000 a month on the other side of price appreciation for Carbon One. Roger says, if you're with DWP, Anchorage is the only offer you need. That is correct. Crypto Navigator says, has anyone had you sign NDAs? Yes. Multiple. Bullhead Zeppelin says, soon institutional custody will be here. No more dumb wallets. I'm with you. I think that most people, you don't want to have to deal with the keys. You don't want to have to deal with the management. You don't want to have to deal with the loss. You want insurance. You want the ability to borrow against it. You want countersigners on there. You want beneficiaries. You want visibility for your loved ones. All the benefits that come along with it far outweigh the cost, in my opinion. There's still going to be diehard people that want to take extreme responsibility for stuff, and good for you. Cold wallets is the way to go if that's the game. But again, just make sure that if you're a prepper and you have, multiple copies of it in maybe a couple different places in case your home burns down, or you've got, an arc plate or something else situated. I'm pretty confident within the next 2 years, cold wallets are likely going to go away, except in extreme cases. And the reason for that is quantum computers will be able to hack those. And if you don't have something that is quantum proof and cryptographically, done in a way that mitigates that risk, you could potentially lose your assets. And so that's my anticipation. We'll see if it's right or not. This person said, thoughts on ICP. So Insane Clown Posse. No, I'm just messing with you, internet computer. Um, Bobby, interesting. I think ICP will be around and will be used. You saw the CME announce that along with XRP for price feed not too long ago. I do think that it will be used in some capacity. I see it as a competitor to Hedera Hashgraph. I think Hedera kicks its butt for the applications for dApps and the base layer for Web3. But I do think that there'll be some instance in which, ICP does have a competitive advantage and is used in specific use cases aside from Hedera. So, am I super bullish on it? To tell you the truth, I think it, all-time high seems crazy, $750. I wish I had bought some of it when it was running to that price. I know it's way down from that now, so it could be an opportunity. We'll see. The only thing I'm sure on is XRP. To be honest with you, out of anything, that's the only thing that I would stake my claim to. Chainlink. Well, okay. I'm going to eat my words here. So Chainlink is by far the most adopted enterprise oracle on the planet. IOTA, I think, will be a competitor for it in public sector, but in private, like Chainlink is second to none. It's an oracle protocol. I do think that the FTSO, Flare Time Series Oracle, provides some competition for it in DeFi applications, but I think there's a ton of other applications where Chainlink is going to just be the go-to. They've established themselves as the market leader. What does that mean for Link's value? I don't know. It's moving information from the real world on chain to be able to be used in smart contracts. So I don't know that it moves a ton of value for the token. The more use and lockup and use of Link, the higher, the price of it should go, supply and demand. Link was actually the first thing that I ever bought. It was the first one. And I made a 3X on Link and sold it all. So I think I bought it at like $5, $4, and sold it at like 12 or 16. Let's see here. Get on down to the bottom. Oh, wow. Here we go. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Nelson. What are your thoughts on building a portfolio of online businesses? I think that that's a great idea. I actually had a gentleman on my channel not too long ago to discuss that exact topic. If you want to go back, Scott was that gentleman's name. He is on Twitter. Fantastic account there. And that's exactly what he does for a living, is he looks at internet-based businesses and he acquires them and then, augments. You can stack things where this business uses this service of this business and it feeds off the customers of that business. He's in that, right? So he's building a portfolio of those businesses that effectively increase the EBITDA and valuation of one another. And he plans to exit to a PE firm within the next couple of years. So definitely a game worth playing if you have an expertise in that area. If you're into e-commerce, if you're into a marketing agency, if you're into those type of internet-based businesses, I think that it's a good play and definitely an opportunity. Crypto Navigator says, ClickLab, the security level is different. It doesn't need to do blockchain because the interoperability is already set on chain and doesn't need to blockchain. It uses existing protocols. Not sure what ClickLab is. Here we go. Jason, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, can you explain the memberships are increasing, which memberships are increasing to what dollar amount? So currently the memberships that we provide are social member, which is $25 a month. Try to make it super accessible for people that may not have the means to, get access to a lot of the information that we provide in there. I have never spent less than $3,000 joining a mastermind. That was upfront. I think that we provide more value than that mastermind that I paid that for personally. And I've tried to make sure that that's the case. I want people to come into our community and go, wow, I would pay a lot more for this. Like, that's how I want people to feel. And because of that, again, we're going to raise prices because I do feel it's justified. I think that the value that we provide in there is worth 10 times what we currently charge for it, and that's why we're raising the prices. So again, social membership, $25 a month, that's going to $250. Carbon 1 is $100 a month, that's going to go to $1,000. Carbon 2 is $250 a month, that's going to go to $2,500 a month. And Carbon 3 is $2,500 a month. And I don't have a hard time charging $25,000 a month to somebody. That probably won't go up that much on the Carbon 3. I haven't sorted that out yet in my mind. So we'll probably have an exclusive one also that's invite only. And you will have to have been part of the mastermind previous to participate in that community, unless you are a celebrity or somebody that's well worth being in that community. And again, the vetting will become much more stringent on the other side of price appreciation. So just before I come into this next one here, if you do want to check that out, you want to check it out for free, try it. See if it's something that, if we deliver on what I'm saying, if it is 10 times the value that you're paying for, you can check it out. It is Beyond Broke is the code. Just like it sounds, Beyond, all capitalized, Beyond Broke, the number 1, and then MO, like month. Use that at checkout, and you get a free month of social, Carbon 1 or Carbon 2, whichever flavor you want to try out. This is interesting. Anthony Wade says, I think Tezos is the real deal, but would love your perspective. I like XRP as well, but I think XTZ is better. I've been holding it for 4 years. I held some Tezos early on. I think that Tezos is an interesting project. It was interesting to me that California started to look to issue their titles for their vehicles on Tezos. I do think there's some application for that. So the tokenization of real world products on chain, I think maybe something that network ends up getting. I think that large value payments poses a significantly higher ROI than tokenization of exotic cars or cars. But I do like that there's an actual niche that's being used for and has some adoption. So I don't think it goes away. I do think that Tezos sticks around. I just don't know that the upside in Tezos is anywhere close to anything that's going to be used as a bridge asset to settle high value or low value payments. So it depends on why you're invested in it. If you're invested in it to use the technology in that application or something similar, absolutely, all day, you can write it off. But if you're in it for price appreciation, I would argue that there are better options out there. But again, just one guy's opinion. Do your own research, not financial advice. We are at an hour and a half here. I'm going to roll it all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to take a couple more questions, and I'll take a couple over here on TikTok as well, and then we will wrap it up for the evening. Roma says, is the capital contribution page get revised when you transfer your XRP from your LLC wallet into custody? No, because the custody account would be in the name of the LLC, so you wouldn't have to change the operating agreement. You might update your records, but you wouldn't have to get another notarized copy or anything. Crypto Clay says, but I'm just a dumb welder. Me too, man. And you're not. If you're a welder, you're not dumb. If you can run a bead and you're good at running a bead, you're not dumb. This one's interesting. The Throng That Never Ends. Interesting name. They say, hey y'all, have you heard of the Root Network? It's a game AI play, uses XRP in its ecosystem. They're partnered with Ready Player One, WB, Sony, and FIFA. Yes, I have heard of them. Futureverse is a big deal. I think that the Root Network is awesome and definitely going to play a big role in the future as XRP is adopted. Sorry, here's some music outside. He's also asked, will the membership fee stay the same for existing members pre-price appreciation? Yes. Yeah, anybody that's already in the mastermind, loyalty is one of my highest core principles, okay, and core values. People that are loyal to me, I'm loyal to them. I try to make sure people are taken care of that have paid dues and been here early. And so everybody that's in the mastermind now, before price appreciation, you're locked in for all the price tiers. So if you wanted to move up after price appreciation happens, you're still going to pay the current prices. Don't have to worry about, being gouged or having to pay those higher prices on the other side. And that's why I'm like, get in here for free now and then you're good. You know what I mean? Like, get a free month. I don't think it's going to be that much longer until we're raising prices. Let's see here. I'll take a couple more over here on TikTok and then we'll wrap it up. Can you transfer from Coinbase to your LLC? You can create an account on Coinbase for your LLC. All the exchanges will do corporate accounts, and you can move your assets that it's in your personal name over to an LLC account. But yeah, you could move it into a cold wallet, and that cold wallet could be listed in your capital contributions for your LLC as well. Or you could, set up your LLC on another exchange and move it from Coinbase into that exchange underneath the LLC's name. That would work also. Marin says, where can I get the shirt? XRP Cafe. I don't know if they have a store or not, but apparently a lot of people want it. So they need to get one if they don't have it. What happens when you transfer your XRP from your LLC wallet into custody? You have insurance and you can borrow against it and you can earn yield on it, and you have multi-sig and you can have beneficiaries assigned to it. All the benefits with none of the downside. I don't know if that was answer to your question or not, but that's what I would say. Oh, Gilbert. He says, currently have $3,000 in my savings. How much XRP should I buy? I can't tell you to buy anything, man. I can tell you what I think price is going to go to based on global economic events and adoption of the network. I think it's going to go somewhere from, what is it right now? $1.50 today to $100 plus in a very short period of time is my prediction. Again, I said 75K was the top for Bitcoin, and I was wrong. So take it with a grain of salt. I don't have a crystal ball. Have signed some NDAs with some people, and I do talk to Ripple and R3 on a regular basis and a lot of other people that deal with this network and things. But, again, just a guy on the internet. Mighty Tone says Satoshi's wallet can be hacked in 2 to 3 years, and the answer is yes. It could. All right, we're going to roll all the way down here to the bottom, and then we're going to go. Can iTrust be put into an LLC? No. Well, yeah, you could. You could set up the LLC as a beneficiary. The accounts at iTrust are going to be in an IRA, and we can move those over to Digital Wealth Partners. If you do want to move that over and earn yield on it or borrow against it, but you can't borrow against an IRA. They're very particular about that, but you can earn yield on those assets, and that can be put into a side account that you can borrow against. So anyway, if you would like Digital Wealth Partners to manage your IRA for you and be your financial advisor for those assets inside there and potentially be able to earn yield on them, you can contact iTrust and begin the conversation about transferring that IRA over to Digital Wealth Partners. So and you reach out to info@digitalwealthpartners.net and ask questions as well. The Click Lab, should I move all my Doge into XRP? I can only tell you what I'm doing. I can't give you financial advice. I don't own Doge. I know people that have made a lot of money on Doge. I'll give you an example. Chris and Maya, the two people that made XRP Unleashed, they made a ton of money in Doge, and now they don't own Doge, and all they own is XRP. So that's up to you. I don't own anything else. All I own is XRP, and that's because I'm extremely confident. I have biases, right? But I also have had some conversations and done a lot of research and things that make me feel that that's the best position for me to have the best ROI for me and my family. So hopefully that gives you somewhat what you wanted. NFA, right? Appreciate you asking the question, though. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, a wonderful evening. We will see you guys back on Wednesday for another live this week. So you can catch me then. We'll continue to do AMA like we do. And until then, if you want to join the Mastermind, mastermind.beyondbroke.com. You can use the code BeyondBroke1MO, all capitalized at checkout. Get a free month there. See if you like it. If you don't like it, cancel. We just want to be able to give people the opportunity to get in there at a reasonable rate before price appreciation happens and you get, stuck on the other side. So, and then if you want an LLC or institutional custody, go check out digitalfamilyoffice.io. And both of those are under the service tab there. Or if you want financial advice around your digital assets and to speak with a financial advisor, go check out digitalwealthpartners.net. Anyway, again, appreciate you guys hopping on here and hanging out with me for the evening. And again, wish you a wonderful week, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see y'all on the next one.